Hey guys, Jose here from Transformative Stories Podcast. Today I'm going to be doing a story with my wife Elise.
Hello.
And we're going to be sharing a story about something that we experienced on while trying to celebrate our 1 year anniversary. So this story began a few years back. Again, it was where I was trying to plan something to celebrate our 1 year anniversary, and so we wanted to do something different. We wanted to go over to some caverns that we had discovered online. There were some that were local, and there was one in particular that was located about an hour, I believe it's like an hour, right? Mm-hmm. An hour away from here, called Chasm Cavern. So after a quick Google search, I found a nearby hotel, a historic hotel located like literally within 4 or 5 minutes from the hotel. Had 4 to 5 star rating, so I booked it. I knew nothing about the hotel. I didn't read any of the reviews or anything. I just booked it. So my wife and I, we packed up our stuff. We went over there, and then drove into this town called Volcano, California. You want to share a little bit about the town? Like, what were your initial thoughts?
Yeah, so it's like a little gold rush town. It's a neat little historic town. I thought it was really cool because I kind of like that kind of stuff. And the hotel I thought was really neat because it was really historic. At first I was like, hey, babe, you did a great job picking a hotel. This is a cool little historic hotel in a cute little town, the cute little bakery and this really good restaurant around the corner.
Yeah, and it's cool, like the hotel, when you first drive up, it's the first thing that you see on the street. So it's this big 3-story hotel, and exactly like Ulysses had just mentioned, is that there was these little shops, a little bakery. It was just this really small, quiet town. My initial thoughts of the inside of the hotel was a little bit different. The outside, I had my initial thoughts. I thought it was cool, but once I actually got into the hotel room, that's when my perspective kind of changed. The first thing was, so we were located on the 3rd floor in a room called the Soldier's Gulch. And every single room had a different name. I didn't know that, neither of us knew the meaning of it. And I think I don't know if that room was given to us or we just picked it at a random. That part I can't recall. But walking into the room, I was a little upset, to be completely honest, just because of the price that I paid for 2 nights. And the room was, in my opinion, was kind of small and it was very simple. One of the things is I also, either I didn't understand or didn't catch it when I first read it, was about the shared bathroom. So if you ever stayed at a hotel with a shared bathroom, the bathroom is not inside of your room. The shared bathroom is, you share the bathroom with everybody on that floor. So in order for you to use the restroom, you have to go across the hall and then go into the restroom. Inside of the actual room, it was a full-size bed. There was a nightstand on my side. Did you have a nightstand in yours? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I want to say there was just a nightstand on my side. There was a rocking chair. There was an armoire, and then there was these picture frames.
And one window.
Yeah. And one window with a balcony, and then the picture frames. Do you remember the specifics of the picture frames? Like what was on them?
I only remember one. One had a picture of, like, a very old black and white picture of a soldier.
Yeah. I don't remember what the other ones were, but I know it was just a very simple room. Also, I don't remember if it was on the rocking chair when we initially got there or if it was located somewhere else, but there was a basket of towels or with like toiletries in there. And I don't remember, like, if you look up the images of the room, it's located on top of this like circular table, but from when I remember it, it was on top of the rocking chair. But anyways, aside from the description of it, I remember just the feeling the bad feeling that I got when we first went into the room. When I first went in there, I remember getting goosebumps, like all throughout my body. Something about the room just didn't feel right, but I didn't know what it was. I had a feeling that the place may have been haunted, but I couldn't, come to any conclusions until I decided to Google search and see if what I was feeling and thinking was actually accurate. So I came up with this brilliant idea to, when I went to go use the restroom, to pull out my phone and start using Google, and that's what I did. So I found some stuff online, and I think I just remember typing in, I don't know if we mentioned the name of the hotel, St. George Hotel. Is St. George Hotel, is it haunted? And of course, the first articles that I find on there, it's like one thing after another confirming, like, yes, this place is haunted. There's YouTube videos about it. There's blogs. There's even actually, if you read through the reviews, some people have posted stuff, like gave it a positive rating and then posted about their experience of, whatever they experienced. So upon reading that, of course, I felt very uneasy, and I wanted to share it with Elise. So when I made my way back to the room, I started to share with Elise, and then that's when you cut me off.
I said, don't tell me.
Yeah. She really just didn't want to know until we were done with the trip. So I just, kept my mouth shut. So the day went on, and it was time to go to sleep. And just like we usually do, we pray before we go to bed. And then we try to go to sleep. And then that's when things got weird. So what do you remember from, like, after we closed our eyes? Yeah.
So we were having back-to-back nightmares, each of us separately, waking up at different times. I usually don't have dreams like that. I don't remember what my dreams were about now, but I just remember I had nightmare after nightmare after nightmare, and kept waking up from them, and so did Jose, over and over. So we were kind of going back and forth between that.
Yeah, and the nightmares for me, it's not anything new. Like I've had like countless nightmares in the past, but one thing that was different about this experience was that usually if I dream of a place, so let's say for example, my parents' house. If I have a dream of my parents' house, something about the house looks different. It's like the layout of the house, or maybe the exterior of it, something's always different. But in these nightmares, it was different because in my dream, the location of wherever this was happening was my room, and the layout, everything looked the same. And I remember, I think it was one of the first dreams that I had was I was laying on my bed, Elise was next to me, and I couldn't see anything, but I felt that there was this presence like at my feet. And I don't remember if something grabbed my foot or something, but I woke up in a panic. And I think that first time I may have waken up by myself, or Elise woke me up, one of the two. And I woke up just very frantic. And so after each nightmare, I would do the same thing. I would pray, and just ask God to take away these nightmares, and then I would eventually fall back asleep. But it was back to back. Every time I fell asleep, or at least fell asleep, we had a nightmare and we got woken up. And I remember, I think it was the last dream that I had, or last nightmare that I had. I was laying on the bed, and this time something was grabbing me from my feet, but this time it was lifting me off the bed and then pulling me off the bed. And then that's when I woke up in a panic. And so I woke up that final time, and I just looked over at Elise. She was awake at this time, and just said, "Hey, I cannot sleep. We both just keep having nightmares, and this is just too much. Like, we were not able to get a good night's sleep. had to get up early in the morning and go to the cavern, and we're just not able to find any rest. And I think it was probably around, I remember, like 3 o'clock in the morning we had to use the restroom. It was something like that.
Middle of the night.
It was like, let's say 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had to use the restroom really bad. And I was like, man, I can't hold it for like another few hours. And thankfully, Elise had to go as well. So I flipped on the light, and we noticed something that was different about the room. When we looked in front of us, I noticed that the basket of towels that was on top of the rocking chair before we went to bed, perfectly placed in the center, was completely tipped on the ground. All the towels and everything that was in the basket was just completely on the floor. And I remember looking over at Elise and saying, "Did you do that? Did you knock that over?" She nodded her head, said, "No, I didn't do anything."
None of us had gotten up during the night.
Yeah.
We were in the bed the whole time.
Right.
So that's why it was very strange.
So we were both very confused about what could have possibly knocked this thing on the ground. And then that's when I don't remember if it was then. Did you remember about the noise that you heard?
Well, sometime during the night sleeping, sometimes during the night while I was sleeping, I was waken up by the sound. It sounded like someone had opened up the armoire that was in our room and had slammed it closed. And I was so afraid. I just laid with the covers up, just squeezing my eyes shut, because I was too afraid to look. And the other thing to note is we were the only ones on the entire floor.
Yeah.
So the hotel has 3 floors. We were on the 3rd floor. I don't know, there's probably like 6 to 8 rooms on the whole floor. It's not really that big. And we're the only ones on the entire floor. So that doesn't explain the noise. It wasn't like, oh, it could have been the next person in the next room. But I heard that it sounded like someone had slammed the armoire shut. And then at another point, it sounded like there was a noise like right outside our window. And outside our window was a balcony. And it's the middle of the night, and there's no one on our floor. So I don't know where that noise could have come from either. So those were a couple strange things that happened while trying to sleep as well.
Yeah. So fast forward, eventually, used the restroom, came back to the room, and
we were too afraid to use the bathroom alone.
Yeah, so we did.
We walked together.
We did the buddy system. Thankfully we were married at that time, so it was totally fine. Went to the restroom, came back, and remember just sitting on the bed and just talking to Elise. I was like, hey, like, obviously we're not getting any sleep. And we booked this for 2 nights. We could either go sleep in the car, try to tough this out, or just lose the money and go find another hotel. And so we decided to try to sleep through the night and just go find a hotel the next day. And so that's what we did. But this last time before we went to bed, we prayed as usual, and I decided to put on worship music. So I just put on worship music on my phone, put it on the nightstand. We both slept like babies for the rest of the night. No bad dreams, no more noises, no nothing. Like, as soon as we put on the worship music, just slept peacefully. And I think that has a very significant meaning. Yes, there is power in prayer, but there is also power in worship. And obviously, for whatever reason, when we were praying before, these things were happening. But when we started playing the worship music, everything seemed to cease. Now, we didn't want to test this for the second night. We decided to just, book something else and move on. But there is definitely power in prayer. There's power in worship. And then just not fearing these things, because these things, as we've experienced, and many others that you are watching have experienced similar things as well. We know that very much that these things do exist. Now, fast forward to years later. Right now, we're sharing this story in 2022, several years after the occurrence. And what have we learned since then?
Well, so we stayed at the hotel about 4.5 years ago. And so fast forward 4.5 years later to a few days ago, we decided to go visit Volcano, California, mostly because we wanted to eat at this restaurant again. They had these really delicious duck wings, but since COVID and all the complications, they do not have duck wings anymore.
Nope.
So we were very sad about that, but we went back to the little town, not to the hotel, but to the little town, and we learned. I don't remember what we learned.
No, remember that the one is that the room that we stayed at was like the most haunted room. Okay, well, here's the thing. There's a YouTube video that we saw that on the description it says that that's the most haunted room in the hotel.
The room that we were put in was the most haunted room, but we didn't know that until a few days ago.
Right. And then there's another, I think a blog or something that says that there's another room on the 3rd floor that is also the most haunted room. And then I think there's like a third, I don't know if it was like somebody's review or something that says that there's 2 rooms on the 3rd floor. They don't specify what rooms those are that are on the 3rd floor that are the most haunted room. But bottom line is that the entire hotel is haunted.
Oh, and also, something we did know that we haven't mentioned when we stayed there 4.5 years ago is that this was the 3rd time this hotel had been built.
Right.
So the history of the hotel back a long, long time ago, I think the city of Volcano was like established in the 1850s or somewhere around there. The hotel had been built and then burned down, built a second time, burned down, and then built a 3rd time out of brick. And that's what still stands today.
Right. Yeah, and it said something about like that even though this hotel, well, it was a boarding house, I believe.
It wasn't a hotel, it was a boarding house.
Yeah, it was a boarding house burnt down. I don't know if it was a boarding house again, burnt down, rebuilt out of brick, and then now it's a hotel. Mm-hmm. And it said that even though that the structure itself had been rebuilt, that some of the things from the past, meaning spirits, have still kind of lingered. And one of the things that I was reading online, and I can't confirm this, I don't know, is that there's 2 spirits that haunt this place. That is like one spirit of like a little girl and another one of a well-dressed man with a top hat. We didn't see any of those things, thankfully, but that is what some of the stuff that you read online. And if you do a Google search of haunted hotels in California, St. George Hotel in Volcano, California is going to pop up. Now, us sharing this story is not to encourage people to go and seek these things out and to go there for entertainment, because I know that there's people out there that love to do stuff like that, of going purposely to these haunted places and think it's a game. I'm guilty of that I've done that in the past. I used to do that with my friends back in high school and maybe even some in college as well, of going purposely to these haunted places, seeing what we could find, seeing what we could see, seeing if we could take pictures of anything. It's not a good idea. Once you've experienced the real thing, there's nothing fun about it. You can be opening up doors, whether you are a follower of Jesus or not a follower of Jesus. You could be welcoming people into your home that you don't want welcome. We don't recommend it. But the reason to share the story is just to kind of shed light in this experience that we had. Again, going somewhere completely ignorant to any of the history or anything that's gone into this hotel. It was simply just to celebrate our 1-year anniversary. But then also too, to emphasize just the power in the name of Jesus. That again, I will in the future, share more stories similar to this, just with demonic activity. And the conclusion in every single story is always the same, that there's power in Jesus's name. You can pray to him, you can pray to Jesus, you can worship him, and light is always going to overcome the darkness. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We thank you guys for everybody who's watching. We ask you guys to please like this video, to share it, and please subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories. Thank you guys for listening. Bye.